Welcome back to LPBW Update, where we dig deeper into the stories the TLC cameras are too afraid to show you. If you think you know the full extent of the drama happening at Roloff Farms, you need to stop everything and listen to this right now. We have received urgent information but highly credible insider chatter, suggesting that the battle for the farm has just shifted from a negotiation to a crime scene. This isn't just about money anymore. It is about safety, it is about health, and it is about the ultimate betrayal. We are talking about a narrative that is currently developing behind the scenes that changes everything we thought we knew about why the North Side has not sold. The viral hook going around the forums right now is terrifying. The farm is poisoned. You heard that correctly. We are looking at a situation where Matt Roloff has allegedly declared the land toxic and worthless. But is it real? Or is this the darkest scam ever pulled on the Roloff family? Stay tuned because we are breaking down the timeline, the report, and the devastation that has just hit Zach, Jeremy, and the grandkids. Let's get right into the premise of this exclusive theory. Sources indicate that negotiations were back on the table. There was a glimmer of hope that Zach, or perhaps a joint venture with the siblings, could finally secure the legacy. But then, silence. A sudden, unexplained freeze on all talks. Why? Because Matt Roloff reportedly called an emergency family meeting, not to discuss prices, but to drop a bombshell that could condemn the property forever. According to the theories circulating, Matt presented a grave, official-looking document, a new environmental impact report. The contents of this report are nothing short of catastrophic. It claims that the soil on the north side, the very land the kids grew up playing on, the land where the pumpkin patch draws thousands of people, is contaminated. We are talking about high levels of lead, leaked oil from decades of old farm equipment, and chemical runoff that exceeds state safety limits. Matt, looking like a heartbroken grandfather, allegedly told the family that the land is not safe. He reportedly looked his children in the eye and said, "It is not safe for the grandkids to play here anymore. The deal is off. Not because I won't sell, but because I cannot in good conscience let you raise your families on toxic ground." Just imagine the weight of that moment. You have to understand the psychological impact here. For years, the narrative has been that the kids couldn't afford the farm or that Matt was being too greedy. But this shifts the villain role entirely. Suddenly, Matt isn't the greedy tycoon. He frames himself as the protector. He is the grandfather saving his lineage from lead poisoning. But we have to look closer. We have to analyze the timing. Why now? Roloff Farms has been an active agricultural site for 30 years. They have had county inspections. They have had permits for massive structures. They have hosted the general public for pumpkin season for decades. Are we really supposed to believe that suddenly, just as the kids were making a serious play for the land, a report appears out of thin air claiming the soil is radioactive garbage? This is where the theory gets dark. We need to look at who benefits from this news. If the land is toxic, it is worthless. You cannot build homes on it. You cannot farm on it without millions of dollars in soil remediation. The market value drops from $4 million to practically zero overnight. The reaction from the family, as you can imagine, was absolute devastation. This is the part of the story that breaks your heart. According to insiders, Zach and Tori were completely crushed. Jeremy and Audrey, who have been building their own farming dreams, were blindsided. The dream of raising the cousins together on the grandpa's farm didn't just die, it was murdered by a lab report. The emotional toll here is massive. We are hearing reports that the kids were terrified. They spent their entire childhoods rolling in that dirt. Is this why Matt has been so weird about the property lines? Is this why he was so hesitant? Fear-mongering is a powerful tool. If you tell a parent that the backyard will make their child sick, they don't negotiate. They run. They pack up and they leave. And that is exactly what happened. The kids retreated. The air was sucked out of the room. The fight left them. You can't fight a chemical hazard report. You can't argue with science, or at least what looks like science. But here's where the devastation turns into suspicion for us here at the channel. In the midst of this family tragedy, while the siblings are reeling from the news that their inheritance is essentially a hazardous waste site, one person remains strangely calm. Caryn Chandler. Now, we have covered Caryn's influence on the farm extensively, but this theory suggests a level of calculation we haven't seen before. While the kids were crying and Matt was looking at the floor in mock despair, Caryn reportedly stepped up with a solution. She didn't panic. She didn't worry about her own health, despite spending years on that farm. Instead, she offered a way out. Sources suggest she told the kids, "I hate to see you so burdened by this. Your dad is devastated. He's stuck with this unsellable land now." And then, the kicker. The line that should have set off alarm bells instantly. She allegedly said, "I have a friend who buys junk land, distressed properties, companies that strip the assets and hold it for decades. Maybe, just to help Matt out, I can get them to take it off his hands for pennies on the dollar." Do you see what is happening here? This is the classic white knight strategy used in real estate fraud. First, you devalue the asset. You make the owner feel like the property is a liability, a danger, a burden. You scare away the legitimate buyers, in this case, the children who would cherish the land. Then, once everyone has walked away in fear, you swoop in with a favor. You offer to buy the poisoned land just to help out. It is a masterclass in manipulation. The devastation phase of this narrative is crucial because it relies on the kids' love for their own children. Matt and Caryn know that Zach and Jeremy would never risk their kids' health. By playing the toxic soil card, they didn't just win the negotiation, they nuked the negotiation table. They ensured that the kids would never, ever ask for that land again. Let's go deeper into the specifics of the alleged contamination. The report supposedly highlighted areas near the old barn and the machinery graveyard, places Matt has kept cluttered for years. It cited lead paint flaking into the topsoil and hydrocarbon leaching from rusted tractors. It sounds plausible, doesn't it? Matt is known for hoarding junk. It fits the character of the farm. That is what makes the lie so effective. The best lies are wrapped in a grain of truth. Yes, farms have old equipment. Yes, old paint has lead. But to the extent that the entire north side is uninhabitable, that is a stretch that defies logic, especially considering the strict agricultural zoning laws in Oregon. If the ground was that toxic, the county would have shut down the pumpkin patch years ago. Thousands of visitors walk that ground every October. If there was lead dust flying around, the lawsuits would have buried the Roloffs a decade ago. So why is this report surfacing only now, in 2026, or whenever this timeline is set? The silence from the family on social media might be the biggest clue. Usually, when there is a dispute, we see passive-aggressive posts. But regarding this specific issue, there is nothing. That indicates legal fear. If Matt showed them a document labeled Confidential Environmental Assessment, the kids are likely terrified of saying anything that could destroy the farm's reputation publicly, even if they aren't buying it. They are protecting the brand, even as the brand betrays them. The devastation is total. They have been told their history is poison. Imagine being told that the place where you had your fondest memories is actually a death trap. It psychologically severs the tie to the land. It makes it easier for Matt to sell it to an outsider because the kids no longer want it. They don't just walk away, they run away. And let's talk about Caryn's friend, or the shell company angle. This is where the financial incentive becomes clear. If the land is valued at $4 million as prime real estate, Caryn and Matt can't justify selling it to a shell company for $500,000 without looking like they are laundering money or cheating the heirs. But if the land is toxic and has a negative value due to the cleanup costs, suddenly selling it for $200,000 to an LLC looks like a savvy business move to cut losses. It allows them to transfer the title out of the family name, bypassing the kids' inheritance rights, and moving it into a corporate entity that Caryn likely controls or has a stake in. Once the land is in that LLC, lo and behold, a year later, a cleanup crew comes in, or a second opinion is hired, and suddenly the land is clean again. The value shoots back up to $4 million, and the kids are left with nothing. This is the theory we are exploring today. The timeline of the devastation phase is roughly a week long in real time. A week where Zach pulls his offers. A week where Jeremy stops his planning. A week where Amy Roloff is kept in the dark, or perhaps told a sanitized version to keep her from exploding. Matt is controlling the information flow. He is the gatekeeper of science. He holds the paper. He holds the fear. And he uses it to clear the board. But here is the flaw in the plan. Matt and Caryn underestimated one thing. They underestimated the skepticism of the people around them. They assumed that because it was a scientific report, no one would question it. They assumed the kids would be too emotional to think rationally. And for a moment, they were right. The shock was too great. The disappointment was too heavy. The narrative paints a bleak picture. The north side, empty. The wind blowing over the fields that are now marked as hazard zones in the minds of the family. Matt, sitting in his office, likely feeling a mix of guilt and relief that the problem of the kids wanting the land is finally solved. Caryn, whispering in his ear that it was the only way, that they are saving the kids from a financial burden. It's a twisted logic, but we have seen this kind of justification from them before. We are doing this for the family. It's a business decision. But labeling the family legacy as a toxic waste dump, that is a new low. It is a scorched earth policy. If I can't have it my way, nobody can have it. Or rather, nobody can have it until I wash the title through a shell company. As we wrap up this deep dive, consider the emotional state of the players. Zach feels like he failed his family by not securing the land sooner. Jeremy feels validated in his distrust of his father, but heartbroken that the land is ruined. Amy is likely suspicious, but doesn't have the data yet. The stage is set for the perfect crime. The victims have walked away. The property is distressed. The buyer is waiting in the wings. It looks like Matt and Caryn have won. They have successfully devalued the asset to steal it from the lineage. But they forgot about one person. They forgot about the one man who knows real estate regulations, who knows the lay of the land, and who has a nose for nonsense. They forgot about Chris Merrick. And that is where the story is about to take a massive turn. Because while the kids were crying, Chris was watching. And Chris didn't like what he saw in that report. The devastation phase was successful, but it was built on a house of cards. A house of cards made of Photoshop and lies. We are going to look at exactly how the cracks started to form. We are going to discuss the intervention of Chris Merrick, the independent investigation that took place under the cover of darkness, and the shocking discovery about the lab that issued the toxic report. You think the shock of the poison was bad? Wait until you hear about the fake laboratory in Arizona. Wait until you hear how Chris Merrick turned from a passive observer into the hero of the farm. The lie is about to unravel, and science is going to strike back. This is just the beginning of the exposure. The soil isn't the only thing that's dirty on Roloff Farms. The hands dealing the cards are covered in mud. Keep listening, because when we come back, we are going to the lab. We are going to the county records, and we are going to expose the paper trail that Matt and Caryn thought they had buried deep underground. The investigation begins now. If you thought the toxic soil revelation was shocking, what comes next is going to make your blood boil. We left off with the Roloff family in shambles, Zach and Jeremy walking away from their legacy, convinced that the land is a poisonous hazard. Matt and Caryn were poised to offload the property to a mysterious buyer, but they made one critical miscalculation. They forgot that Chris Merrick isn't just a husband to Amy. He is a seasoned real estate agent. He knows paperwork. He knows disclosures. And most importantly, he knows when a property report smells fishy. While the kids were grieving the loss of the farm, Chris was reportedly quietly seething. Something didn't sit right with him. Why would a farm that has passed inspection for 30 years suddenly become a toxic waste site overnight? And why was the report presented on a Sunday afternoon instead of through official county channels? According to our exclusive theory, the investigation began in the kitchen of the big house, or rather, Amy's new house. Chris asked to see a copy of the report, not to challenge Matt, but under the guise of double-checking the liability for Amy. He played the concerned stepfather. He told Amy, "If the land is that bad, we need to make sure the toxicity hasn't leached into the south side where you still have ties." It was a brilliant move. It got the document into his hands. And the moment Chris Merrick put on his reading glasses, the entire scam began to unravel. Let's talk about what he allegedly found. In the real estate world, environmental reports come from certified local geotechnical firms. You use people who know Oregon's soil. But the letterhead on this document? It reportedly bore the name of a company no one had ever heard of. Let's call them GeoPure Analytics. The first red flag was the logo. Sources say it looked pixelated, like something dragged and dropped from a Google image search. But the real smoking gun was the address. Chris, being the diligent agent he is, looked up the firm. He expected an office park in Portland or Salem. Instead, the address listed for this state-of-the-art laboratory pointed to a strip mall in Scottsdale, Arizona. Do you hear that? Arizona. Who do we know with deep ties to Arizona? Who spends half the year there? Who has a network of friends and possibly shady business contacts in the state? Caryn Chandler. The connection was instantaneous. Why would Matt Roloff hire an unknown lab from Arizona to test soil in Hillsboro, Oregon? It makes zero logistical sense. Samples have to be kept at specific temperatures. You don't mail a box of dirt across the country when there are labs 20 minutes away. Unless, of course, you don't want a real lab to test it. Unless you need a specific result that a reputable local lab would never give you. Chris Merrick didn't stop there. This is where the narrative turns into a full-blown detective thriller. He didn't confront Matt immediately. He knew that if he tipped his hand, Matt and Caryn would destroy the evidence or claim it was a preliminary draft. He needed hard proof. So, under the cover of darkness, or perhaps during one of those times Matt was away in Arizona with Caryn, Chris allegedly went to the north side. This is the image that defines this theory. Chris Merrick, armed not with a contract, but with a stainless steel soil probe and sterile sample bags, walking the grounds of the Forbidden Zone. He went to the exact spots the report claimed were radioactive with lead and oil. The old tractor graveyard, the barn perimeter. He took core samples, he labeled them, and he didn't send them to Arizona. He drove them personally to a top-tier accredited agricultural lab in Oregon, putting the request under his own name to keep it off the Roloff books. While waiting for those results, Chris dug deeper into the fake lab. He called the number listed on the report. According to insiders, it went straight to a generic voicemail. "You have reached the general mailbox." No receptionist, no GeoPure Analytics, just a burner phone line. He ran the business license. It didn't exist. The corporate filing number listed on the bottom of the page? It was invalid. The entire document was a fabrication. It was likely created on a laptop in the farmhouse office, possibly using a template found online, with scary-sounding words like hydrocarbon saturation and heavy metal toxicity pasted in to terrify the uneducated. Then, science came back. The waiting period must have been excruciating for Chris. He was holding on to a secret that could tear the family apart, or save it. When the email from the real lab arrived, the results were unequivocal. We are talking about the science phase of the timeline now. The report didn't just say the soil was safe, it said the soil was pristine. Class A agricultural loam. Lead levels? Negligible. Well below the strictest residential standards. Oil contamination? Non-existent. The report explicitly stated that there was no evidence of long-term machinery leakage in the tested areas. The discrepancy wasn't a margin of error. It was a complete inversion of reality. The fake report claimed lead levels of 400 parts per million. The real report showed 12. The fake report claimed the water table was compromised. The real report showed the groundwater was crystal clean. The science proved that the toxicity was a lie designed for one specific purpose: price manipulation. Let's analyze the mechanism of the scam here. By declaring the land toxic, Matt creates a documented reason to devalue the asset. If the land is worth $4 million, he has a fiduciary duty to the family trust or the heirs to sell it for fair market value. But if he has a report, even a fake one, saying it requires $3 million in cleanup, he can justify selling it for $1 million or less. Who buys it? The shell company Caryn allegedly lined up. That shell company buys the toxic land cheap. They hold it for 6 months. They perform cleanup, which means doing nothing because it's already clean. Then they get a new inspection from a real lab, like the one Chris used, which declares the land miraculously cured. The value snaps back to $4 million. The shell company sells it to developers or holds it, and the $3 million in equity that should have gone to Zach, Jeremy, Molly, and Jacob goes directly into the pockets of the silent partners. Chris realized he was looking at attempted grand larceny disguised as a grandfather's concern. The anger must have been overwhelming. He saw how broken Zach was. He saw the tears in Amy's eyes, thinking her grandkids were almost poisoned. And he realized it was all a theater production directed by Caryn Chandler. The formatting of the fake report even had telltale signs of Caryn's influence. Phrasing that she uses, maybe even metadata on the digital file that traced back to her computer. Chris now had the weapon. He had the fake report in one hand and the real science in the other. He had the proof of the Arizona Ghost Lab. The investigation was complete. The question was no longer, is the land safe? The question was, how does he drop the hammer? He couldn't just tell the kids, they were too emotional. He needed to bring this to the matriarch. He needed to arm Amy Roloff. Because if there is one person you do not want to cross, it is Amy when she finds out her children have been lied to. The tension in this investigation phase comes from the realization of how close they came to losing everything. If Chris hadn't looked at that logo, if he hadn't known that Arizona zip code, the deal would have gone through. The kids would have signed waivers. The land would be gone. This elevates Chris Merrick from a side character to the MVP of the series. He used his professional skepticism to uncover a fraud that targeted the very DNA of the Roloff legacy. We are now moving toward the climax. Chris has the documents. He has shown Amy. The shock has turned into cold, hard rage. The scene is set for the final confrontation. We are talking about a kitchen island showdown that will go down in history. The science is irrefutable. The lie is exposed. But how will Matt react when the toxic soil is dumped on his desk? How will Caryn spin her way out of a non-existent laboratory? You are not going to want to miss the final part of this deep dive. We are about to witness the victory phase, and let me tell you, revenge is a dish best served with a certified soil analysis report. The timeline we have been uncovering, the toxic soil saga, has led us to this singular, explosive moment. We have seen the devastation of the kids, the calculated scheming of the shell company narrative, and the quiet, diligent investigation by Chris Merrick. Now, the pieces are all on the board. The trap has been set, but this time, the trap isn't for Zach or Jeremy. It is for the people who tried to steal the farm out from under them. According to the latest theories and insider leaks, the confrontation didn't happen in a lawyer's office. It happened right in the heart of the beast, the kitchen island of the Maine farmhouse, the very place where so many family dreams have died over the last decade. Matt Roloff had reportedly called a final meeting to settle the liability. The narrative he was pushing was simple. Sign a waiver acknowledging the soil is toxic, release the estate from any future health claims, and allow the distressed asset to be sold to the Arizona-based investment group Caryn had graciously found. It was supposed to be a funeral for the farm. The mood was somber. The kids were reportedly ready to sign, just to end the pain and protect their families from the alleged lead poisoning. But then, the door opened. And it wasn't a lawyer walking in. It was Amy Roloff, flanked by Chris Merrick. And they weren't holding waivers. They were holding a thick, bound document from the state-certified agricultural lab in Oregon. The atmosphere in the room reportedly shifted instantly. Matt, sitting at the head of the table, likely expected Amy to come in yelling or emotional. He knows how to handle emotional Amy. He pushes her buttons, she explodes, he looks like the victim. But this wasn't emotional Amy. This was tactical Amy, armed with Chris's intel. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She walked straight to the granite countertop and slammed the real lab results down on top of the fake ones. The sound echoed like a gunshot. "You lied," she reportedly said, her voice shaking not with sadness but with cold, hard fury. "You lied to your children about their safety. You terrified them about cancer and poison, all to save a few dollars on a tax write-off?" Matt allegedly tried to deflect, pulling his usual, "I'm just trying to protect everyone," the report says. But Chris Merrick cut him off. This is the moment the fans have been waiting for. Chris, usually the pacifist, stepped up. He pointed to the document Matt was holding. "That report is a forgery, Matt. The lab doesn't exist. I called the number. It's a burner phone. I looked up the address in Scottsdale. It's a P.O. box inside a shipping store 3 miles from Caryn's winter condo." The silence that followed was deafening. You could hear a pin drop. The focus of the room shifted entirely to Caryn Chandler. Until this moment, she had been the supportive partner, the one nodding along about how sad the situation was. Now, the spotlight was burning her. The theory suggests that Matt turned to look at her, confusion washing over his face. This is a crucial detail in the narrative. Did Matt know it was fake? Or did he just tell Caryn, "Get me a reason to lower the price," and she took it too far? The look on his face suggested the latter. He realized he wasn't just caught in a lie, he was caught in a felony. Attempting to defraud heirs using a fabricated environmental report is not just reality TV drama, it is a crime. Amy didn't let up. She opened the folder Chris brought. "Here are the real results. Chris took the samples himself. The soil is pristine, Matt. It is perfect. There is no lead. There is no oil. The only toxic thing on this farm is the person sitting next to you." The victory was absolute. The toxic soil narrative evaporated in seconds. The kids, Zach and Jeremy, who were moments away from signing away their birthright, looked from the report to their father. The betrayal was no longer vague. It was quantifiable. It was printed on paper. The sheer relief that their children weren't in danger was quickly replaced by a realization of how close they came to being swindled by their own family. Caryn's reaction, according to the theories, was a masterclass in backpedaling. She reportedly stuttered, claiming it must have been a preliminary draft, or that the Arizona lab was a consultant she trusted, and they must have made a mistake. But the damage was done. The friend who was going to buy the junk land, the shell company, it was exposed for what it was, a vehicle to strip the asset from the Roloff bloodline. The immediate fallout was catastrophic for Matt's plan. The deal to sell to the mysterious Arizona group was dead on arrival. He couldn't sell it now. If he did, the kids would have grounds to sue for fraud, claiming he manipulated the valuation. He was cornered. The only way to avoid a massive legal battle and public humiliation was to put the deal with the kids back on the table, at a fair price, without the toxic discount, but also without the toxic premium he had been demanding before. This victory changed the power dynamic of the entire series. For the first time, Matt didn't hold all the cards. Chris Merrick, the outsider, had trumped the master manipulator. Amy had protected her legacy. And the kids? They realized that their father's business decisions were being puppeteered by someone else. The North Side wasn't worthless. It was, and always had been, the crown jewel. As the dust settled on this explosive meeting, Matt was left sitting alone at the island, the fake report looking like trash in front of him. Caryn had reportedly retreated to make a phone call, distancing herself from the wreckage she caused. The kids walked out with Amy and Chris, the real report in hand, knowing that the land was safe, and more importantly, knowing exactly who their enemies were. So, where does this leave us? The farm is safe from the poison lie, but is it safe from Caryn? This theory exposes the lengths to which the new management will go to secure a payout. They were willing to weaponize the health of the grandchildren to close a deal. That is a line you do not cross. This wasn't just a negotiation tactic, it was psychological warfare. And they lost. If this narrative holds true, if these insider reports are accurate, it means we are looking at the final season of the Caryn regime. Matt Roloff is a businessman, but he is also a man who cares about his public image. Being caught in a fraud this clumsy, this malicious, is a stain he cannot wash off. He has to make a choice, the farm and his family, or the woman who almost got him arrested for real estate fraud? Now, I need you to listen to me closely. This story isn't over. The fallout from this meeting is going to ripple through the entire next season. We are going to see Matt trying to do damage control. We are going to see Caryn playing the victim, claiming she was just trying to help. Do not buy it. You have seen the timeline. You have seen the evidence. The soil was never the problem. The toxicity is coming from inside the house. If you are as outraged as I am, if you believe that Zach and Jeremy deserve the truth, and if you want to see Caryn Chandler kicked off the farm for good, you need to take action right now. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. We are tracking every move they make. We are digging into the public records of that Arizona shell company as we speak. We are not letting this slide. This is the LPBW update. We don't just watch the show, we expose the truth. Comment below. Do you think Matt knew the report was fake? Or was he a pawn in Caryn's game? Let us know. And until next time, keep your eyes on the land, because the dirt is finally coming out.